The doctor's voice was a low, clinical drone from the hallway, but one phrase sliced through the fog of my consciousness like a shard of ice. If he wants to terminate, would it hurt him? The question hung in the sterile air, followed by a voice I knew, a voice that had been whispering sweet nothings in my ear just that morning. Cole's voice, my husband's voice. I see. Ice flooded my veins, colder than the 4-drip taped to my arm. Terminate. The word was a gunshot in the quiet hospital corridor. He was talking about the baby. My baby. The tiny, unknown life that had turned my world into a chaotic nightmare. And Cole, my rival, my enemy, my husband, was calmly discussing its disposal as if it were a problematic business merger. The nausea that had been my constant companion for what felt like an eternity churned with a new, venomous bitterness. I had woken up in a stranger's life, trapped in a body that wasn't entirely my own, and now the man sleeping beside me, the man whose scent inexplicably soothed my panicked heart, wanted to erase the one thing that felt real in this whole mess. I had to get out. It had all started that morning, or what my fractured memory insisted was the morning after a drunken night of celebrating Cole's rumored infertility. The first thing I registered wasn't the unfamiliar softness of the 1,000-thread-count sheets or the faint, intoxicating scent of cedarwood that clung to everything. It was the violent rebellion staging a coup in my stomach. I bolted upright, a hand clamped over my mouth, and made a desperate, stumbling sprint for the bathroom, barely registering the plush carpet under my bare feet. I crashed to my knees before a gleaming porcelain throne just as my body betrayed me, the world turning into a dizzying blur of heaving misery. What in the hell did I drink last night? I groaned, my forehead pressed against the cool ceramic. Wiping my mouth with the back of my hand, I flushed and pushed myself up, my knees aching from the impact. That's when my eyes landed on the wall. And my world, already tilted on its axis, spun into freefall. It was a photograph in a ridiculously ornate silver frame. A picture of me, grinning like a complete fool, my arm linked with Cole's. We were wearing matching tailored suits, flowers pinned to our lapels. A wedding. Our wedding. My gaze dropped to my left hand, and a gasp tore from my throat. A simple, elegant band of white gold glinted under the bathroom light, a shackle I didn't remember acquiring. My brain, already overloaded, simply blue-screened. Cole. My sworn nemesis since freshman year. The arrogant, top-tier alpha whose smug grin I'd fantasized about punching for years. He was my husband. The word felt alien and disgusting on my tongue. Hoping it was a vivid, alcohol-induced hallucination, I blinked hard. The photo remained, mocking me with its portrait of domestic bliss. Then, my gaze drifted downward, to the small trash can tucked beside the vanity. Peeking out from beneath a tissue was a small plastic stick. Two bold, undeniable pink lines screamed up at me. My stomach lurched again, but this time, it had nothing to do with last night's cheap vodka. Pregnant. Me. An omega, yes, but this was a level of cosmic absurdity I couldn't process. The morning sickness wasn't food poisoning. It was a baby. My CPU wasn't just fried. It had melted into a puddle of incomprehensible error messages. I slumped against the sink, my reflection a ghostly, pale stranger with wide, panicked eyes. I tried to rewind, to find the point where my life derailed so spectacularly. Yesterday, or what felt like yesterday, I had shown up at Cole's apartment, a bottle of bargain bin vodka in hand, ready to gloat. A mutual friend had let it slip. Cole, the epitome of alpha perfection, the man whose cedar pheromones made omegas weak at the knees, was supposedly infertile. I'd reveled in it, taunting him, calling him Captain Childless or some other equally juvenile insult. And now I was married to him, living in his ridiculously tasteful apartment, and carrying a child. Wait, a chilling thought slithered through my panic. If Cole was infertile, whose baby was this? My mind raced, flipping through a mental Rolodex of possibilities. Evan, my long-standing campus crush, the cool, collected alpha with a jawline that could cut glass. The thought sent a confusing jolt of guilt and excitement through me. Had I, in this forgotten 3-year gap, finally gotten my dream guy, only to have a scandalous affair behind my husband's back? Or Liam, my Omega best friend? But that made no sense. We were like brothers. The biology didn't add up. The prime suspect was Evan. And if that was true, I had cheated on Cole. The Cole who, according to rumor, once keyed a guy's car for taking his parking spot. What would he do to a cheating husband carrying another alpha's child? The possibilities were terrifying. A soft knock on the bathroom door made me jump. "Babe, you okay in there?" Cole's voice. It was deep, resonant, and laced with an infuriatingly genuine concern that made my skin crawl. "Babe?" He called me babe? The bile rose in my throat again, and I dry heaved over the toilet. "I'm fine," I croaked, splashing cold water on my face. The man in the mirror was a wreck. "You've been in there a while," his voice came again, softer this time. "Need anything? Some water?" This wasn't the Cole I knew. The Cole I remembered would have been kicking the door down, laughing his ass off at my misery. This gentle, caring version was a stranger, and it was freaking me out. "Stop calling me babe," I snapped, wrenching the door open. He was standing there, all 6 foot something of him, dark hair sleep-tousled, his gray eyes soft with a worry that seemed utterly real. His cedar pheromone washed over me, a warm, grounding scent that eased my nausea but sent my head spinning. Damn alpha-omega biology. He tilted his head, a confused frown creasing his brow. "Why? You always said you loved it. Said it made you feel tingly." A ghost of a smirk played on his lips, and I had the sudden, violent urge to smack it off his perfect face. "Tingly? Are you serious?" I shoved past him, my feet slapping against the cool hardwood floor. "Call me that again, and the only thing tingling will be your face after I punch it." Cole actually chuckled, a low, warm sound that followed me into the bedroom. All right, point taken. How about sweetheart? Honey? Love of my life?" He was teasing, but his eyes held an earnestness that completely threw me off balance. My angry retort died in my throat as I took in the room. It wasn't just a bedroom, it was a shrine, a monument to us. Photos covered every available surface. Cole and I laughing on a Ferris wheel, kissing under a canopy of fairy lights. Him looking at me with an expression of such raw adoration it made my stomach clench. Even the decorative pillows on the bed had our initials embroidered on them in gaudy gold thread. J and C. I wanted to gag. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my head in my hands. "Cole, what the hell is happening? Why are we like this?" I gestured vaguely at the domestic horror show surrounding us. He sat beside me, his proximity a tangible heat. His scent was making it hard to think straight. "Like what?" he asked, his frown returning. "Married? In love? Happy?" He reached for my hand, but I flinched away as if burned. "Happy? I don't remember any of this. I don't remember getting married. The last thing I know, we hated each other's guts, and I bit my tongue before I could finish the sentence. There was no way I was admitting I'd mocked his supposed infertility, not when I was the one who was mysteriously pregnant. Cole's frown deepened into a look of genuine alarm. Jack, you're scaring me. Did you fall? Hit your head? We've been married for almost 3 years. He reached out, pressing the back of his hand to my forehead. I swatted it away. I'm not sick, I mumbled. Then the word I'd been avoiding tumbled out, heavy and real. I'm pregnant. I couldn't look at him. If I said it, it became real. And if this baby wasn't his, my life was over. The man who held grudges over stolen French fries would not be the forgiving type when it came to infidelity. You're what? Cole's voice was a whisper, but his eyes were sharp, analytical, as if he could see straight through my paper-thin defenses. My heart hammered against my ribs. I needed to buy time to figure this out before he did. Nothing, I said, forcing a laugh that sounded more like a strangled squawk. I just ate something weird. Bad takeout. That's why I was puking. He didn't buy it for a second. He leaned closer, his pheromone wrapping around me like a weighted blanket, calming my frantic nerves against my will. Jack, talk to me. Whatever it is, we can figure it out. Together. His sincerity was a physical blow. A part of me, the terrified, confused part, wanted to break down and confess everything. The transmigration theory, the lost years, the very real possibility that I had monumentally screwed him over. But as his hand gently brushed my back, I only allowed myself to lean into the comfort for a fraction of a second before pulling away. I'm fine, I insisted. Just need a nap. Or maybe a lobotomy. He let out a low, warm laugh. All right, tough guy. Get some rest. I'll make you some chamomile tea. He stood and ruffled my hair. A casual, affectionate gesture that made my traitorous heart skip a beat. As he left the room, I scrambled for my phone on the nightstand, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I needed proof. I needed a timeline. I needed to know how I went from hating Cole to sharing his bed. And most importantly, I needed to know who the hell was the father of this baby. Because if it wasn't Cole, I was in a kind of trouble that no amount of morning sickness could compare to. I sat cross-legged on the bed that smelled of him, the phone clutched in my hand like a holy relic, my thumb scrolling furiously through 3 years of a life I hadn't lived. My head was a throbbing mess of nausea and disbelief. I was a character in some twisted Danmei novel. The amnesiac pregnant Omega, married to his archrival, playing private investigator to uncover the identity of his own child's father. Cole was humming in the kitchen, the clinking of a mug against the counter, a sound of serene domesticity that grated on my raw nerves. I opened my chat history, my digital archaeological dig began. Hours melted away into a blur of text messages, photos, and forgotten moments. 2 primary suspects emerged from the digital fog. Suspect number 1, Evan. My college crush. The alpha whose icy blue eyes and effortless charm had occupied my daydreams for years. Scrolling back, our old messages were undeniably flirty. One from 2 years ago made my cheeks burn. Jack, your trouble with a capital T. Meet me at the pier tomorrow night. Don't be late. Had it happened? Had I finally landed my dream guy, only to betray the man I was inexplicably married to? The thought left a sour taste in my mouth, one that had nothing to do with pregnancy hormones. Suspect number 2 was a long shot. Liam, my Omega best friend. Our chats were a chaotic tapestry of memes, inside jokes, and late-night drunk voice notes. But there was nothing remotely romantic. I dismissed him. It had to be Evan. My heart sank. I'd gotten the man I thought I wanted. But at what cost? Cole, for all his smug arrogance, didn't deserve that. The bedroom door creaked open, and Cole entered, a steaming mug in his hand. "Chamomile," he said softly, placing it on the nightstand. "It should help." He sat on the edge of the bed, his thigh brushing against mine. I instinctively scooted away, clutching an embroidered pillow like a shield. "Thanks," I mumbled, refusing to meet his gaze. Those gray eyes were too perceptive, too kind. It felt like he could see the guilt eating me alive. "Are you sure you're all right?" he asked, his voice low and serious. "You've been acting strange ever since you woke up. And not your usual, I'm going to bite your head off strange." He offered a small smirk, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just adjusting," I lied, taking a sip of the tea. The warmth did nothing to thaw the iceberg in my chest. If Evan was the father, I had shattered this man's heart. And if Cole ever found out, I shivered. His hand landed on my back, a gentle but firm pressure. His pheromone, that damned cedar scent, washed over me, calming the roiling in my stomach. "Hey," he said softly, "whatever's going on, you can tell me. You know that, right?" I didn't. Not when I was harboring a secret that could detonate his entire world. But his touch was so grounding, so impossibly safe, that for a wild moment, I almost confessed everything. Instead, I just shook my head. "I'm just tired." He didn't push. He just sat with me, rubbing slow circles on my back. To distract myself, I glanced around the room again, at the gallery of our shared life. Cole and me on a beach, him carrying me on his back. Cole and me at some black tie event, him gazing at me like I'd personally hung the moon and stars. It was obsessive, a little creepy, and, okay, a tiny, traitorous part of me admitted, kinda sweet. "So what's with the shrine?" I asked, gesturing at the wall of photos. "Planning on starting a cult centered around us?" He laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that vibrated through the mattress. "You're the one who picked most of these out. Said you wanted to be surrounded by our memories. I just went along with it." He leaned in, a teasing grin spreading across his face. "You're kind of bossy, you know." "Me? Bossy?" I scoffed, giving him a light shove. "You're the one who struts around like you own the place." "I do own the place," he winked. "We both do." And I hated, absolutely hated, the way my cheeks warmed. He stood and stretched, his shirt riding up to reveal a tantalizing sliver of toned muscle. I quickly looked away, cursing my body's hormonal betrayal. "I made some porridge," he announced. "Your favorite. Maple and cinnamon. Want me to bring you a bowl?" I blinked. "You a cooked? You? The guy who once set a microwave on fire trying to make popcorn?" He clutched his chest in mock offense. "Ouch, babe." Eva leveled up. 3 years of being a devoted husband has turned me into a culinary master. He paused, that infuriating smirk returning. "Well, for you anyway." There it was again. "Babe." I glared at him. "Call me that one more time and this mug is going to become intimately acquainted with your forehead." He held up his hands in surrender. "Fine, fine, Jack. My darling. My one true love. Better?" His grin was so damn charming it made my pulse race. "Whatever," I grumbled, but I couldn't stop the corners of my lips from twitching. He returned with a bowl of porridge, and the sweet, comforting aroma was intoxicating. I took a hesitant bite. It was perfect. Absolutely, undeniably perfect. Down to the tiny pinch of nutmeg I used. A secret I'd never told anyone. How did he know? Is it okay? Cole asked, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. I nodded, my mouth full. Fine, I lied, shoveling in another spoonful to avoid talking. He chuckled, and for a blissful second, the chaos in my head receded. And then my phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up, illuminating a single name. Evan. My heart stopped. I fumbled to silence the phone, but it was too late. Cole's eyes flicked from the screen back to my face. His easy smile didn't falter, but something in his gaze hardened. Wrong number? He asked, his tone a little too casual. Yeah, I said, my voice coming out too high. Telemarketer. Trying to sell me, vacuum cleaners. Smooth, Jack. Real smooth. Cole just nodded slowly, but the atmosphere in the room had shifted, growing heavy and thick with unspoken questions. Get some rest, he said, leaning down to press a soft, warm kiss to my forehead. I hated how much I didn't hate it. He left the room, leaving me alone with the ghost of his scent and the burning evidence of my potential betrayal. I stared at the phone. I had to talk to Evan. I had to know the truth, and I had to do it fast, before Cole's gentle concern curdled into something far, far scarier. The mark on my neck was a faint, throbbing reminder of Cole's jealousy. I'd barely slept, the image of his wild eyes and the sharp scent of whiskey-laced cedar haunting me. He'd seen me with Evan. My pathetic vacuum cleaner excuse hadn't fooled him for a second. I had to get answers now before his suspicion festered. I waited until he left for some charity banquet, his eyes still guarded as he kissed me goodbye. The moment the door clicked shut, I sent a text to Evan. Coffee shop. Noon. Urgent. The place was buzzing with midday chatter when I slid into the booth across from him. He looked, as always, like he'd just stepped off a magazine cover. Jack, he said, his blue eyes scanning my face with concern. You look rough. Peachy, I snorted. Just a typical week. Woke up with amnesia. Found out I'm married to my nemesis, and I'm puking my guts out every morning. My attempt at dark humor fell flat. Let's cut to the chase, I said, leaning forward and lowering my voice. We need to talk. About, I gestured vaguely toward my midsection, praying he'd get the hint. Evan's brow furrowed. About what? Jack, you're not making any sense. Was he playing dumb? The kid. Evan. This kid. I hissed, pointing at my own stomach. Are you going to take responsibility? Or are you just going to pretend it never happened? His eyes widened in genuine shock. Kid? What the hell are you talking about? Are you pregnant? He looked utterly baffled. Don't play innocent, I snapped. 2 years ago. The pier. All those texts. We had a thing, didn't we? Evan's jaw tightened. He leaned back, crossing his arms. Jack, I don't know what you've cooked up in your head, but there was no thing. We hung out. We flirted. That's it. I'm with Liam, for God's sake. We've been together for years. You know that. He paused, his expression softening slightly. Is this about Cole? No. Yes. I don't know. My voice was getting louder, drawing glances from a nearby table. I just need to know if you're the father. Because if you are, I've ruined Cole's life and he is going to literally skin me alive. Jack, I'm not the father, he said, his tone firm but not unkind. I swear on my life. We never slept together. You're married to Cole. What is going on with you? His words hit me like a physical blow. He wasn't lying. I could see it in his clear, steady gaze. But if he wasn't the father, then who was? The world tilted, the smell of coffee suddenly suffocating. I shot to my feet, my fists clenched. Fine. Be that guy. Dodge responsibility. Jack, wait, he said, reaching for my arm. My control snapped. My hand flew out before my brain could stop it, connecting with his cheek with a sharp crack that echoed through the cafe. He stared at me, stunned, a red mark blooming on his perfect skin. Mortified, I turned and fled, my heart hammering with a cocktail of rage and regret. Halfway down the block, my phone buzzed. It was Cole. Banquet ended early. Home soon. Where are you? My blood ran cold. Running errands, I typed back, my fingers trembling. When I finally made it back to the apartment, the air was thick with a dangerous silence. Cole was on the couch, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his tie loosened. His pheromone wasn't warm and comforting anymore. It was sharp, predatory. Errands? He said, his voice a low growl. His eyes raked over me, lingering on my flushed cheeks. Before I could formulate a lie, he was on his feet, closing the distance between us in 2 long strides. He pulled me into a crushing embrace, his nose buried in my hair. You smell like him, he murmured, his breath hot against my ear. You smell like Evan. He knew. He'd seen us. It's not what you think, I stammered, but my voice was a traitorous quiver. His grip tightened, and then his lips were on my neck, his teeth grazing the sensitive skin over my scent gland. A jolt of pure, primal sensation, part pain, part shocking pleasure, shot through me. He was marking me, staking his claim. Cole, stop. I gasped, pushing against his unyielding chest. He froze, pulling back instantly. His eyes were wild, his pupils blown wide, but a flicker of guilt cut through the haze of alpha possession. He'd been drinking. Shit, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. I'm sorry, Jack. I saw you. At the cafe. I saw you slap him. His jaw was tight, his voice ragged with a hurt I hadn't expected. He thought I was fighting with my lover. The worst part was, for a moment there, I had thought the same thing. It was nothing, I whispered, unable to meet his eyes. A misunderstanding. The fresh mark on my neck throbbed, a testament to how close we'd just come to the point of no return. Get some rest, he said, his voice rough as he stepped back. He grabbed his jacket and left without another word, the door closing with a soft click that sounded like a final judgment. I sank onto the couch, my hand trembling as I touched the tender spot on my neck. I was drowning in a sea of my own secrets and stupidity, and I had no idea how to find my way back to shore. The next few days were a tense ballet of avoidance. Cole was distant, his kindness replaced by a polite, guarded wall that was infinitely worse than his anger. The mark on my neck was a constant, shameful reminder of the mess I'd made. I felt suffocated by guilt. He didn't deserve this. He deserved someone who loved him, someone without a 3-year blank in their memory and a baby of questionable parentage. That's when I remembered Noah. In college, Noah had been Cole's devoted, gangly shadow. A sweet omega who had harbored a crush on Cole so massive it was practically visible from space. I remembered his dramatic vow to never marry if it couldn't be Cole. It was a perfect solution. Clean break. I would play matchmaker, give Cole the devoted partner he deserved, and then I would disappear, raise this baby on my own, and let them be happy. It was a crazy, desperate, and probably terrible idea, which meant it was exactly my style. Using Cole's unlocked phone, apparently, he still trusted me. The idiot. I found Noah's contact information and shot him a message, pretending to be Cole. Hey Noah. Long time. Been thinking about you. Want to catch up? His reply was instantaneous and embarrassingly eager. Cole. OMG yes. When and where? I set up the rendezvous at a lavish hotel suite for the weekend. This was almost too easy. I was plotting my escape, a manic grin on my face, when Cole walked in. What's got you so happy? He asked, his voice startlingly close. Nothing. I yelped, trying to hide the phone. Just a funny cat video. He smirked, that familiar, infuriatingly handsome smirk. Oh yeah? Let me see. He lunged for the phone, and his hands landed on my waist, his fingers digging in and tickling me relentlessly. I shrieked with laughter, squirming in his grasp, the phone clutched in a death grip. For a split second, I forgot everything. I forgot the lies, the baby, the plan. It was just us, laughing. He easily plucked the phone from my hand, and my heart plummeted. But he just glanced at it, handed it back, and ruffled my hair. Keep your weird cat videos, he chuckled, heading for the kitchen. Guilt, sharp and stabbing, twisted in my gut. He was teasing me, cooking my favorite pasta for dinner, acting like a husband, while I was orchestrating his breakup. The night of the grand plan, I was crouched in the hotel suite's closet, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I'd left a key card and a note for Cole. Surprise tonight. And told Noah to make himself comfortable on the bed. The room was dark, lit only by the romantic glow of candles I'd arranged. My plan was simple. Let them have their passionate reunion, and I'd sneak out unnoticed. The door clicked open. Cole. His powerful cedar pheromone filled the space, making my head swim. He moved toward the bed, a dark silhouette against the candlelight. I heard a rustle of fabric, a low murmur, and then the unmistakable creak of the mattress. My face flushed. This was it. It was working. So why did it feel like I was being hollowed out with a spoon? The creaking intensified, punctuated by muffled gasps. I'd done it. I was a genius. A miserable, heartbroken genius. And then my phone buzzed. Loudly. Not just a buzz, but the full, blaring chorus of the cheesy pop song I'd set as my ringtone. It's gonna be a great, great day. The sounds from the bed stopped. The room went dead silent. I peered through the slats of the closet door and met a pair of furious, blazing gray eyes. Cole. The closet door was ripped open, and he hauled me out, his grip like steel. Jack, he growled, his shirt half unbuttoned. What the hell are you doing in my closet? I glanced past him to the bed. A figure sat up, equally disheveled. It was Noah, but he wasn't the gangly Omega I remembered. He was tall, muscular, and radiating an unmistakable alpha scent of pine. My plan hadn't just failed. It had spectacularly imploded. 2 alphas. I'd set my alpha husband up with another alpha. Surprise? I squeaked. The combined force of their pheromones. Cole's cedar thick with rage, Noah's pine sharp with confusion, hit me like a physical blow. The room spun, my vision tunneled to black, and the last thing I heard was Cole shouting my name as I collapsed. I woke up to the steady, sterile beep of a hospital monitor. This is where you came in. Hearing Cole's voice, discussing termination. Fueled by a potent cocktail of terror and betrayal, I ripped the 4 from my arm, ignored the searing pain, and ran. I fled the hospital, fled the man I was convinced wanted to murder our unborn child, and hailed a cab to the only safe place I could think of, my parents' house. But the house was dark, silent, and draped in dust sheets. It was a tomb. My key still worked, but the emptiness was a crushing weight. Panic seized me. Where was my family? My last resort was Liam. I dialed his number, my fingers shaking. Jack? His voice was a lifeline. It's been ages. You okay? No, I choked out, tears finally breaking free. Liam, where are my parents? What happened to me? I think I transmigrated. I'm pregnant and I don't remember anything. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Pregnant? Wow, Jack. Okay, listen to me. You didn't transmigrate. You were in a car accident 3 years ago. You lost a lot of your memories. Your parents are fine. They're in a lovely care facility since your dad's surgery. Cole set it all up. He took a breath. Jack, this life? It's all real. You chose it. The phone slipped from my grasp, clattering onto the dusty floor. Not a transmigration, just a broken brain. Amnesia. It was all real. The marriage. The love I couldn't remember. The baby. I curled into a ball on the dusty couch in the dark, empty house, and finally, truly, let myself shatter. I don't know how long I wandered in the rain after that. The truth was a heavier burden than the lies had been. I was just a broken man who had wrecked his own life because he couldn't remember it. I was so lost in my own misery that I didn't hear the car pull up beside me. A door slammed. Jack. The voice cut through the downpour. I looked up and there he was. Cole. Soaked to the bone. His hair plastered to his forehead. His eyes wild with a panic that mirrored my own. Before I could run, he was there, pulling me out of the rain and into the circle of his arms, under the shield of his umbrella. His warmth was absolute. His scent, that cedar scent I now recognized as home, enveloped me. And as I sagged against him, completely spent, he just held me tighter. I found you, he whispered into my hair, his voice thick with a relief so profound it felt like a physical thing. Jack, I thought I'd lost you. The truth was I had been lost. And maybe, just maybe, the man I'd been running from was the only one who knew the way back. And that's where our story is for now. Jack finally knows the truth about his memory, but a gulf of hurt and misunderstanding still lies between him and Cole, especially after what he overheard at the hospital. What do you think Cole was really trying to ask the doctor? Was it a cold calculation? Or was he coming from a place of fear and concern for Jack? Let me know your theories down in the comments. If you're as desperate as I am to see these two broken souls find their way back to each other, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for the next chapter of their story. You won't want to miss it.